In today's news, sexual offences bill to be introduced in the British Virgin Islands to monitor and track activity of sexual offenders following release from prison.
Escaped prisoner Mr. Kurt Rabsatt has been recaptured by the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force.
And the BVI records 5 additional COVID-related deaths over the weekend. Recoveries surpassed 500 as active cases now under 900.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the first member state of the OECS to be granted permission for the export of medical cannabis. First shipment is headed to Germany.
And viewers, 4 children in Guyana succumbed to COVID-19 in just a few days, taking a total death among children to 15. With these and more stories when 284 News return.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
Welcome everyone. It's Tuesday, January 18th, 2022. I'm Kamal Haynes.
And I'm Ron Grant. We're coming to you live and direct from Tortola in the Virgin Islands. Of course, a happy Tuesday, a terrific Tuesday to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we get into our newscast, it seems that even virtual court hearings are being impacted by COVID-19, and questions loom among residents who will pay as they're not given decisive answers as it pertains to the COVID isolation benefits. Does that fall on Social Security or the employer? Government bets it can get some $5.7 million from gaming, says Financial Secretary, and medical school to be open this August. No automatic acceptance for BVI Islanders, says Flax Charles.
Viewers, we start today's newscast from today's speech from the throne, where the Andrew Foy-led administration will be introducing a sexual offences bill in the territory that will aim to monitor and track sex offenders following their release from prison. But this was revealed during the 2022 speech from the throne in the House of Assembly, which was delivered by His Excellency Governor John Rankin today, January 18th. Well, Governor Rankin said that the aim of the bill is to bring the BVI in line with international best practices for sexual offence legislation.
The Sexual Offences Bill will be introduced to provide a gender-sensitive legal framework relating to a broad range of sexual crimes and provide adequate measures for minimising secondary traumatisation and mentoring and tracking of sex offenders following their release into the community. It will address implementation, monitoring and evaluation arrangements, investigation and prosecution procedures, legal proceedings and evidence, and sentencing, and provide protection, support and assistance to complainants and survivors. The Act will bring the Virgin Islands in line with international best practices for sexual offence legislation by providing comprehensive definitions and prioritising the prevention of gender-based violence.
Well, Governor Rankin also said that to assist with curbing violence against children in the territory, the VIP administration will also be introducing the Children Care and Adoption Bill. Well, this bill will ensure that the BVI's legislation is in line with the standard of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, also referred to as the OECS.
The Children Care and Adoption Bill will be brought forward in the new session of the House of Assembly to ensure that local legislation is in line with the OECS Model Children Care and Adoption Bill, to modernise and strengthen the laws to aid in the proper care and management of children in the Virgin Islands. The bill will provide a more comprehensive way to address child abuse, neglect, exploitation and other forms of violence against children. Its express intent is to ensure the safety, welfare and well-being of the child, and that any decisions taken are made in the best interest of the child. The bill will modernise the laws relating to foster care and adoption procedures and the overall welfare of the child.
Well, viewers, that was His Excellency Governor John Rankin. And obviously, what this now means for the territory is that for those persons, Ron, who would have experienced that sexual abuse and those their offenders would have been prosecuted, charged, and served their time, you know, the fear ultimately for those persons who were subject to undergo and experience such unfortunate situations is always, okay, what happens when that person comes out? Will they be, there's a trauma,
of course,
that's associated
there's
with
a trauma
such
for that individual, that child, the public, family, friends, for everyone, essentially.
Indeed, and what the government is ultimately saying now, that they're trying to put some legislation in place to help, not only put the BVI in standards with the OECS and stuff when it comes to international standards, but also help to protect those victims in terms of, ensuring that this particular circumstance doesn't reoccur for that particular individual, and also it helps for that sexual offender in a sense to be able to reintegrate back into society following particular standards that prevents that person from committing such an offense again. And also, I assume that it will put in place some stringent measures to I guess, stop such instances from reoccurring again, should that person be tempted to do such, basically.
Well, Kamal, it's very similar to a parolee who is coming out of prison, who essentially has to meet with their social worker or their case manager to consistently make sure that they are abiding by the rules and regulations that would not allow them to get in a similar situation. And these very instrumental pieces of legislation, viewers, the FOIA administration have to be commended. Many persons, many legislators, decading quite a while back, legislators have been asking or hinting to a sexual offenders register, and none of them, in my opinion, have gotten this close. If the FOIA administration is indeed in a position to make this happen, I do think that it will set the territory up for a better law enforcement as it pertains to sexual offenders. And I do think it will tremendously assist the Social Development Department in executing their duties. In addition to that, two other pieces of legislation, that is the Child Care and Adoption Bill, that really, I think, would holistically put the needs and the well-being of our children of this territory in a much better position. So I totally commend them, and this is a step in the right direction.
Indeed. So it's one thing of announcing it. It's
another thing to make it happen.
It's about saying how long it will take for this legislation to come into play and be assented to by the Governor, John Rankin.
Indeed. And now, viewers, continuing on yesterday, January 17th, 2022, officers of the Armed Response Team recaptured Kurt Rabsatt of East End Tortola BVI. Now Rabsatt, 36, of Long Look, had escaped police custody in late December while being escorted into the East End police station. Rabsatt is suspected to be responsible for a number of burglaries in addition to other possible offenses. Rabsatt will be charged for escaping lawful custody in addition to any other charges that he might be suspected of participating in addition to the burglaries. Kamal, unfortunately, this has been a topic of discussion quite a while, not only the Kurt Rabsatt situation, but from time to time over the past few months, a few prison escapees has been a topic of discussion, and we do continue to wish the Royal Virgin Islands and the police force, as well as the prison, at Her Majesty's prison, the very best. But I think it's been happening too often, to say the least, and that is the most direct way and honest I can put it. It's been happening too often. So we have to perhaps look at what are some of the measures in place that are not working, that may be contributing to this factor, overall for the betterment and safety of our territory, because it is not always that these prison escapees are located. And again, you ignite a sense of fear among residents when this happens.
Well, for this particular situation, it was a little different because this particular one would have happened while the person was being transmitted from one
to be honest, Kamal, it really doesn't matter, because
but the other ones were within customs. Those were persons who came in the territory.
In custody. But it really doesn't matter, because in any sense, in this particular case, like you're bringing, he was being escorted, but he's still in the control of law enforcement officers.
This one, in my opinion, this one should not have occurred because he was already in police custody.
Yes,
the other ones, in terms of where the individuals were detained by customs and then put up in a luxury hotel basically to relax until they're deported, that situation on the hand is something
a bit different. But once you're in police custody, that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Again, there are questions that need to be asked as to perhaps what's contributing to that factor.
probably a little too comfortable. Well, viewers, up next, the BVI records 5 additional COVID-related deaths over the weekend. Recoveries surpassed 500 as active cases now under 900. And St. Vincent and the Grenadines is the first member state of the OECS to be granted permission for the export of medical cannabis, with the first shipment headed to Germany. Well, these and more stories after a word from our sponsors.
Is business slow, cash flow down, hosting an upcoming event? We can help. Advertise with 284 Media and take your business or event to the next level by enhancing your present marketing and messaging strategies. Allow our team of experts to create a personalized ad that sets your business apart from all the rest. This could be your business or event. So, what are you waiting for? Contact our marketing team at 284media at cctbvi.com. Advertising with us works.
Well, welcome back, viewers. Well, the British Virgin Islands has recorded 5 additional COVID-related deaths as active COVID-19 cases in the territory continues to be on a decline, with 510 recoveries also reported. Well, this was confirmed in an epidemiological report from the Ministry of Health and dated Monday, January 17th, which stated that the total COVID-related deaths in the BVI now stands at 47. Well, this is an increase from the 42, which was reported on January 14th. Well, no other information was provided on the death of those individuals. Well, on the bright side, viewers, the territory over the last 3 days recorded 510 recoveries and 194 new active cases, which brought the total active cases down to 899. Well, this is some 321 cases less than the previously announced 1,220 last Friday. Also experiencing a decrease is the total hospitalizations, which are down from the previously announced 16 to now 9. Well, of the 899 active cases, 705 are on Tortola, 149 on Virgin Gorda, 40 on Anegada, 4 on Jos Van Dyke, and 1 on Vessels. Also, to give somewhat of a further detailed breakdown of the analysis of active cases, 23 of those 899 were screening day 0 tests, 19 from day 7, and 23 from travel screening. In terms of contacts of cases, 380. Local cases were 454. Ron, obviously this is somewhat of a bittersweet report in terms of the news itself, because obviously we were looking forward for the decline of cases, but not looking forward to deaths, and now we see 5 additional deaths. So it's somewhat bittersweet. While it's good news that the cases are declining, it's not so good. It's not good news of 5 deaths over a space of Friday, between Friday and Monday.
Absolutely. I do think that as the statistics continue to come out from the Ministry of Health, as it pertains, like you said, specific to the deaths, residents are of great concern as it pertains to the number, especially during a very short period of time.
And also, too, in terms of information, because when you have such a, we could understand before where they had the 2 deaths, they didn't really make a big announcement about it. But this is 5 deaths. People want to know the information. How old are these people? Were they vaccinated or unvaccinated? Why hasn't that information been released as yet, considering that that is something huge for such a small territory? 5 deaths in a matter of 3 days.
And I do think on the issue of vaccination, it is important that it be mentioned to the public, because over the time that we've been discussing COVID and the deaths, many times, and unfortunately too often, I feel as though information specific to unvaccinated persons have been pushed, and when you have incidents where fully vaccinated persons have lost their lives as well, we don't hear about it as much. And I think cohesively and overall, these, like you said, these statistics and the full demographics of these persons should be made public, so individuals can understand exactly what is taking place.
And also, too, regarding this situation, we do know that there are some circumstances where persons die with COVID and others die of COVID.
Correct.
So it's also, I guess, I'm not sure what's the procedure when someone dies, in terms of how you determine whether the person died as a result of COVID or if they happen to die simultaneously with another disease that would have caused them to die, but they had COVID as well when they would have passed. So I think that some sort of information needs to be revealed as well to help that disparity, so persons get a clear understanding of some of these COVID-related deaths.
Absolutely. Viewers, we're panning across the region. Permission has officially been granted by the Federal Institute for Drugs and Medical Devices, the the BRFARM in Germany, allowing St. Vincent and the Grenadines to officially be the first member state of the OECS to be allowed to export medicinal cannabis. Now, the first shipment, viewers, from St. Vincent and the Grenadines heads to Germany, with the first trial shipment expected to volume at some 110 pounds. Now, additional orders are expected to come in later this year. Early January, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines approved the first export certificate for medicinal cannabis, which came after the import certificate was issued by BFRAM for the product for legally entering Germany. Now, additionally, permission was granted to Caribbean Cannabis Company trading as medicinal. Now, viewers, this company has existing products marketed locally and has done extensive work with seasoned cultivators. Minister for Agriculture Sabato Caesar stated that the conversations have been ongoing for the past 3 years with international agencies, approachable governments, local residents, and private sector stakeholders in order to cement this deal. He said, and I quote, "St. Vincent and the Grenadines is ready for global business in the medicinal wellness industry space. We invite the world to participate." That was Agriculture Minister Sabato Caesar, the Honorable Caesar. Now, Caesar continued, "I therefore invite all member states of the OECS with the established medicinal cannabis policy frameworks to join forces for the sustainable development of what can become a world competitive sub-regional medicinal wellness ecosystem." With the recent opening of the Caribbean Gold Standard Laboratory, St. Vincent and the Grenadines now has a competitive edge in securing international markets for medicinal cannabis that will only help to strengthen the industry within St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Now, other member states of the OECS have shown interest in the medicinal cannabis industry. However, few have been able to accomplish same. Kamal, this is absolutely groundbreaking news for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and I think it would serve as an example for the region. The conversation of medicinal cannabis across the region, and very likely too, we've talked about it on our legislators have alluded to it here in the BVI. Now, that bill that we essentially the Foy administration tried to move forward is yet to be assented to. But here we see St. Vincent and the Grenadines being the first of the member states of the OECS to actually provide a substantial amount in the initial stages of exported medicinal cannabis. I think it serves as an example to holistically, if it's done correctly, and if the research is done and the relationships are forged, what medicinal cannabis, what that industry could do for regions. So I think they serve as a great example, and we do continue to wish them, and of course the Agriculture Minister, the Honorable Caesar, the very best in this initiative. Even though it's the first, they're expected to do quite a bit more.
Well, as you said, Ron, is great news, of course, obviously for the Eastern Caribbean region, where the BVI is a major part of that as well. I think what I would say regarding that, you know, obviously for each country have their own different reasons for why they move forward with certain decisions. Presently, the last thing we heard on the medicinal marijuana legislation from the Premier was that progress was being made. You know, well, the governor did say that the progress is being made. The Premier was questioning, you know, why is it being
What's the hold up
so long? But you know, St. Vincent for a long period have been known for their marijuana. In terms of the marijuana growing, because they have large farms and a particular, I would say they have somewhat of an infrastructure already in place.
Correct.
To help fast track the exportation of marijuana, because they're well known for that industry even prior to the legalization of it, in terms of what would have been happening over the last 5 to 6 years, you know. But ultimately, I think it's a step in the right direction when it comes to countries taking that step to legislate the whole purpose of exporting medicinal marijuana for that reason, because it ultimately benefits the economy once it's done right and correct, and all the necessary institutions and infrastructures are in place. So it's a matter of whether now such a decision now will help to fast track the assenting of the legislation here in the BVI, where then the BVI could then start to get their grips together in terms of trying to put things in place to go that direction.
One of the things that I love about the story is hearing the Honorable Agriculture Minister in St. Vincent really encouraging and essentially saying, we've done it and so can you. And if you need the support, essentially that's what I'm getting from him, reaching out to the regions and saying, if you need the support, let's make this a sub-regional success and not just a success for St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So I think that approach that he's very encouraging to other member states to, if they do wish to be a part of this industry, they too can be as well.
Well, the only thing about that particular statement is that you can only reach out and do such when you're an independent nation, when you're a territory, correct, overseas territory such as the BVI, Anguilla and such. It's a situation where you obviously still have to answer to the UK, and correct, those persons are the person who have the last say when it comes to legislation in the BVI. But hopefully we would see some update within the next few months regarding that bill to be assented to.
I agree.
Viewers, up next, early Colorado State University CSU Tropical Meteorology Project forecast shows signs of another above-average hurricane season. And in Guyana, 4 children succumbed to COVID-19 in just a few days, with total COVID-related deaths among children now at 15. Well, viewers, we get to those 2 stories when 284 News return.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a brand new season of The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, a show poised to help guide modern-day men into 21st century distinguished gentlemen. It doesn't always involve suits and, bow ties, but raw, real-life lessons that translate to grounded, community-minded, well-rounded men. This season, I'm taking you on an entirely different journey, from chefs to dancers, philanthropists, communications specialists, and much more. I'm heading outside in the field to share the journey of some of the BVI's best and brightest men. From East End to West End, Bojangara, Jackson Lake, not forgetting Anegada. Our Virgin Islands gentlemen are doing the damn thing, and I'm so proud. Get ready to reason, reflect, and redirect. We are the movers and shakers of this generation, and we ain't afraid to show it. The Art of a Distinguished Gentleman, Season 3 by yours truly, Ron Grant, raising a generation of greatness.
So you're saying I can ask this cat any question?
The cat is connected to the computer. You just type in the question, it will read his mind. There the answer comes.
You're the man! I've been looking for this for weeks.
Viewers, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking with us. We are panning across, obviously, it is the beginning of a new year, but early signs point to yet another above-average hurricane season. Now, this year's hurricane season is leaning towards above average, actively fueled by early indicators that the Atlantic positive phase and signs that the El Nino, during which trade winds are weakened and warm water is pushed back east toward the west coast of the Americas, which will not happen this year. Now, this is according to an early forecast from the Colorado State University Tropical Meteorology Project, which forecasts a 40% chance of above average AMO occurring, while the possibility of AMO being below average and El Nino development saw a 10% chance of occurrences. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, AMO is an ongoing series of long-duration changes in the sea surface temperatures of the North Atlantic Ocean, with cool and warm phases that may last for 20 to 40 years at a time, and a difference of above 1 degree Fahrenheit between extremes. Now, these changes are natural and have been occurring for at least the last 1,000 years. AMO is associated with changes within the frequency of North America droughts and is reflected essentially in the frequency of severe Atlantic hurricanes. Now, NOAA said officially, according to the researchers, when the Pacific waters are warmed by El Nino, historically, there are fewer hurricanes in the Atlantic. Furthermore, El Nino generates increased vertical wind shear, which can reduce hurricanes actively in the Atlantic. Now, La Nina, meanwhile, has the opposite effect. An above-average hurricane season typically includes 13 to 16 named storms. 6 to 8 hurricanes and 2 to 3 major hurricanes, according to researchers. Now, the 2021 Atlantic hurricane season was the third most active on record, producing 21 named storms. It was also the second season in a row after 2020 and third overall in which the designated 21 name list of storms were exhausted. As you can see on the screen, we did share with you the list of named storms. For more information, you can visit our website.
Well, viewers, moving on to our final story, where in Guyana, 4 children succumbed to COVID in just the last few days, taking their COVID-related death total among children to 15 since the advent of the novel coronavirus. Well, this was confirmed by Guyana health officials on Monday, January 17th, as the country has now recorded a total of 1,905 deaths and 51,203 infections due to COVID-19. Well, speaking during a daily COVID update, Guyana's Minister for Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, said his ministry is presently investigating the death of those 4 children. Take a listen.
In terms of pediatric deaths, since the pandemic started, we have had 15 deaths of children, some of them with comorbidities, and we continue to monitor and trying to decipher what is causing the deaths. For some of those children that would have been hospitalized, we know for sure some of the comorbidities that they've had and the challenges, because some of them, the prognosis was poor with the underlying disease, and then they got COVID, so that compounded or complicated the problem. In the last couple of days, we would have seen the 4 deaths of children, and this is something that we'll do some further investigation on, because of the 4, 3 of these children arrived at the hospital. They were dead before arrival to the hospital, so they didn't die in the hospital. So by the time the parent brought the child to the hospital, the child had already died. So we have had, so that's why we have to investigate these cases further. When the mother was interviewed, in some cases, we would have heard that the child was irritable the night before, had some fever, and by the next morning had difficulty breathing. And when on arrival at the hospital, when they did antigen tests, a swab, they found that the child was positive. So there are cases like this, so that's why we have to investigate them.
Well, viewers, the health minister also said that within his ministry, there is a small committee of doctors who are going to get the charts of those children and review them more thoroughly and do some interviews with the families to get a better understanding of what occurred. Ron, obviously that was a tragedy in terms of a situation in Guyana. 4 youth within the last few days succumbing to COVID-related death. As the minister just said in that interview, he would have said that some of those children would have died prior to basically making their way to the emergency room, making their way to the hospital or the necessary health facilities. Therefore, know what they're having to do after the children would have reached to the health facilities. What they would have done is tested the children after they had already passed, and then they tested positive for COVID. So now investigations have to go on to find out, whether COVID, similar to what we were speaking about before, whether COVID was the cause of the death, or whether the child died before but also had COVID. So that's ultimately what the minister, Honorable Dr. Frank Anthony, would have said just now in that clip. We do wish those and every family who have lost someone since the advent of COVID-19 to COVID, basically wish them all the best and send our condolences as well, especially here in the BVI.
Viewers, that is all the time we have. All the content, of course, be sure to visit our social media handles, Instagram and Twitter. Of course, our website, tweet4media.com. We are so happy to be bringing you local, regional, and international content. We are Tweet4 News, your source for honest and impartial news right here in Tortola, Virgin Islands. I'm Ron Grant. And
viewers, I'm Kamal Hayes. Have a happy Tuesday evening. Continue to tune into us, and if you miss anything, don't forget, log on to our website, as my colleague said, and you basically get the scoop of what you would have missed out on. Viewers, have a great evening.
Bye-bye.